Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. Today is the 17th of July, 2024, and I am Gianni DePoci, your host. We are seeing some very interesting price action in markets right now. The NASDAQ is selling off very hard while the Dow breaks out to new all-time highs. Let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we can start off by looking at the chart of the Dow. We had a really interesting past few days. Not just in markets, but in the world overall. We had a CPI inflation report come in below estimates that all but confirmed the likelihood of a rate cut in September. So the Fed is probably going to start lowering rates before the election. And then, of course, there was a failed assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. And in response, we saw crypto markets surge. The Dow exploded higher, but the NASDAQ began to sell off pretty hard. But you can see here the Dow, a very clean breakout from the ascending triangle formation that we've been discussing with readers of our reports and throughout the MMTA program. But, the big concern that we have now, I'm actually going to look at the NASDAQ 100 here. The big concern now is that we have notable intermarket bearish divergence. That is, the Dow's making a new high, the NASDAQ is not. The NASDAQ has a tendency to lead. And so we know we're in the later stages of some long-term cycles, and this is setting us up for a potentially volatile period in late summer, early fall. Now, we started off this week with the conjunction between Mars and Uranus on the 15th, and that occurred on the fixed star Algol. Ray's been talking about it. A lot of other astrologers have been talking about it, and it would seem that the event that took place with Donald Trump over the weekend was the associated event of that signature. But I did see reports today that Xi Jinping, the ruler of China, did suffer a stroke as well, and that has to do with the head too. So interesting stuff taking place given Algol's relationship to Perseus and Medusa and all that. So definitely some fodder for further reading for those that are interested. Now, that's it for the main geocosmics of this week. Over the weekend, we do have Mars going into the sign of Gemini. And then on Sunday, Sun trine Neptune, Mars trine Pluto. And then next week on the 23rd, we have an opposition between the Sun and Pluto. I'm going to take a look at TLT, the long-term Treasury ETF, and off the news of rate cuts, the probability of rate cuts surging, that is, we are seeing bonds bid higher, but you are seeing a stronger rally on the shorter end of the yield curve, meaning there's a bigger rally taking place on 2-year and 5-year bonds versus 30-year bonds. That's a bit of a cautionary signal, but there is going to be a re-steepening of the yield curve coming around here, and this is what opens the door for an economic slowdown and possibly even a recession. And the timing for a long-term stock market low overlaps nicely with this as well. So there is some reason to be cautious in this market at this point in time. Let's take a look at gold and silver using GLD and SLV as proxies. Gold hit a new all-time high in alignment with our expectations. A little bit of selling coming in. Silver also seeing a notable sell-off today, but looking for a higher low. There is some intermarket bearish divergence on these, but we're still in the early stages of primary cycles for both gold and silver. So I'm still a bit more optimistic on the trajectory of these two commodities. Let's take a look at the dollar against the euro, losing quite a bit of value here. Summertime rally in the euro is not all that uncommon, but for quite some time, we've been talking about the lateness of the 4-year cycle in the Japanese yen, and we may have finally gotten the news to break the dollar against the yen, and that is the rate cuts. And so now we're seeing actually the Japanese yen strengthen against most other currencies as central banks around the world move towards a more accommodative monetary policy. And what's interesting is this has a lot to do with Jupiter square Saturn that begins next month. The central time band begins on August 19th and lasts until June 15th, 2025. And that's tension between easing and restricting monetary policy. And, we've talked about that before in the MMA webinar. The credibility crisis that the central banks could be on the precipice of dealing with going into next year if and when inflation. Because remember, rate cuts means they're printing money again. Let's take a look at crude oil USO. Nice bid today, but can't help but wonder if that's going to continue after next week once the sun forms a trine to Neptune. And one of the reasons why I'm still a little skeptical on energy here is the prospects of an economic slowdown. Energy usually does not do that well in such an environment, but once the Fed turns on the money printer again, that story could change very quickly. And last but certainly not least, we saw a big rally to start the week in Bitcoin, really bolstering the probability that a new primary cycle and a new intermediate term cycle is in effect. We've been talking about this for quite some time. Still need some confirmation, but you're seeing a little bit of profit taking here today after a very explosive rally in both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, if these start running to the upside, I have a hard time thinking that the whole market's going to roll over. But like I said, we are late in some long-term cycles, especially in the Dow. Not so much in the NASDAQ. But that's pretty much what I wanted to cover with you today. So thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We do these videos once a week and have periodic guests on. Ray Merriman and I did a video last week outlining some of the details associated with our conference in Lake Bled, Slovenia between the 19th and the 22nd of September. You definitely don't want to miss it. There's not a lot of spots. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, but details can be found at www.mmacycles.com. Just in the last couple of days, we released our latest edition of the monthly cycles report, MMA's flagship report. Been in publication for over 40 years, and we just updated our outlook for stocks, bonds, commodities, and currencies, and more. So you definitely want to check that out if you want to see where we stand in markets. And that's all for now, everyone. I'll be back next week, same time, same place, and wishing you all a great end to your trading week.